Hello everyone, my name is Reifel del Villar and I will be discussing my project, an oxygen, temperature, and water level sensor for small aquariums using Arduino Uno. First, let's discuss Arduino Uno. Arduino is an open source electronics platform based on easy-to-use hardware and software. It uses a computer software where you can write the code for your project, and this code, or sketch, can be uploaded to your Arduino board. For this project, I used an Arduino Uno. My project consists of sensors for small aquariums like the ones found in houses. Personally, I noticed that the top 3 things that are needed to be monitored in an aquarium are its water level, temperature, and the dissolved oxygen in water. There are 3 inputs for my project, which are the water level, water temperature, and dissolved oxygen sensors. Each has their own specific sensors and are registered as an analog input in the Arduino Uno board. Meanwhile, there are also 3 outputs, which are the faucet, water bubbler, and aquarium lights. Once we've declared the 3 inputs and outputs, I can now construct the truth table. Tank water evaporation is normal in aquariums, but it can be dangerous for the fishes when the water level becomes too low. And when it becomes too low, the faucet will turn on and will stay on until the water level is back to normal. Depending on the climate, the water temperature can either increase or decrease. This can also affect the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water. When either the water temperature is high or the oxygen amount is low, then the water bubbler will turn on and will only turn off once the oxygen and temperature are back to normal. The bubbler helps in aerating the water, thus lowering the temperature and allowing more oxygen to circulate in the tank. Meanwhile, when the temperature is too low, the aquarium lights will turn on and will turn off when the temperature is back to normal. Side note, too much oxygen is not likely to be possible in a fish tank, so I didn't include this situation for my project. So here we have the simulation for our project. We used an Uno Ardusim to simulate this in Arduino. Here you can see that I have generated 3 different outputs, specifically pins 2, 3, and 4. Pin 2 is the faucet, pin 3 is the water bubbler, and pin 4 will be the aquarium lights. Meanwhile, for the inputs, there are also 3. A0 would be the water level, A1 would be the temperature sensor, and A3 or A2 would be for the dissolved oxygen levels. Let's get to each one. For the water level, the sensor is 40 millimeters long or around 4 centimeters. So, if the water level is below 10 millimeters or less than 1/4 of the sensor, the pin 2 will turn on. Here we can see digital right, 2 will be high, and if not, it will be low, which means that if the water level is still high, then the faucet will not turn on. Next, for the temperature, waterproof temperature sensors have a range of around -50 to 125 degrees Celsius, which is why we map this through the analog read. If the temperature is less than 25 degrees Celsius, which is the normal temperature for fish tanks, then pin 4 will turn on. Pin 4 is the aquarium lights, meaning that the aquarium lights will heat up the tank for a bit until the temperature is above 25 degrees Celsius again. Here, pin 4 will turn off if the temperature is above 25 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is greater than 27 degrees Celsius, meaning that it is too hot, the water bubbler will turn on, which helps in lowering the temperature a bit until it reaches the normal temperature of 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. And lastly, for the oxygen levels, there are sensors that can detect oxygen levels from 20 0 to 20 ppm or parts per million. And the normal oxygen for fish tanks is around 5 to 7 parts per million. As I've mentioned before, it's pretty much impossible to have too much oxygen in a fish tank, which is why I did not consider that in my simulation anymore. But if the oxygen levels are too low, or in here less than 5 parts per million, pin 3 will also turn on. Pin 3 is the water bubbler. It helps in aerating the oxygen so that more oxygen can circulate around the tank. If the water level is at the right levels again, then pin 3 will turn off. So here I can see a simulation. If I turn on A1 to a little high, you can see that pin 3 will turn on, which is the water bubbler. And if the water level is too low, pin 4 will turn on, which is the aquarium lights. Meanwhile, A2, it is the oxygen levels. If the oxygen level is too low, pin 3 will turn on, the water bubbler. And here we have A0, which is the water level. If the water level is above 10 millimeters, pin 2 will not turn on. But if it's now below, pin 1 will turn on. Now that we have simulated it, it's now time to build the breadboard. I have already bought myself an Arduino Uno before the quarantine, but I don't have with me the sensors or any of the outputs. So for that, for the inputs, I'll be using these potentiometers. And for the outputs, I will simply be using these indicator lights. There. Yun na yung breadboard. Okay, so now we have uploaded our code here in the Arduino software. I basically copy-pasted the code. And here we have the breadboard. First, this is the first analog input, which is for the water level sensor. This next input will be for the water temperature. And lastly, this would be for the dissolved oxygen levels. And meanwhile, we have here our first indicator is for the faucet. The second indicator is for the water bubbler. And lastly, this indicator is for the aquarium lights. So now I will upload this into my breadboard. As you can see, if I adjust this a bit, if the water level becomes too low, pin 2 will turn on. Meanwhile, for the temperature, if it is too high, pin 3 will turn on the water bubbler. Or if it is too low, pin 4 will turn on the aquarium lights. Let's put them back to normal. And lastly, for the dissolved oxygen, if the amount of oxygen is too low, then pin 3 will turn on. But if it's just right, it will turn off. So, in conclusion, I have created an Arduino project which has 3 inputs and 3 outputs. Specifically, the 3 inputs are the water level sensors, water temperature, and the dissolved oxygen sensor. Meanwhile, for the outputs, I have the faucet, the water bubbler, and the aquarium lights. Also, I have uploaded my code in a Google Drive, and the link can be seen in the description below. You're welcome to try it, maybe improve it, or maybe change something you want to change. But all in all, thank you for watching. Hello, side note. Hindi, bakit side note? Level becomes too low. Einstein, wag ka nang maingay muna dyan. Naririnig ko yung laruan mo. Ayan po, maingay po. Einstein. Coffee? Meron tayong special guest. Hi! Hi! Ano? Ha? Kakawal-kawal ka? Ayan, nasa camera, tahimik ka? Ha? Ingay-ingay mo kanina, ha? Nag-iingay ka sa cage mo, nagbibideo ako. Mamaya malalaman natin kung naririnig yun sa video. Ah, mag-hi ka.